Did the ancient Maya predict the end of the world in 2012? Or was it just a misunderstanding from our Western perspective of what they were talking about? I'm Ed Barnhart. I'm an archaeologist who specialized in the Maya calendar for the last 30 years of my life, so I know a bit of this subject. In this video, I want to tell you about how we came upon the idea that the Maya talked about the end of the world, where that idea came from, who popularized it, and then I'll finish up by telling you why that's really not what they were saying. So, the Maya supposedly said that on December 21st, 2012, that the world was going to reset and end. That is a misunderstanding of what they were doing with their calendar. The calendar cycle that leads us to 2012 is called the long count. And it's an interesting, still poorly understood calendar that they created way back at the beginning of their time. 2,000 years ago at least is when they had this calendar in place. It's a funny calendar because it only has a 360-day year, not 365. So it loses 5 days off of a solar count every year and drifts significantly from it. They did have a solar calendar that they also used in conjunction, so they knew for farmers when to plant and when to harvest, but the long count wasn't about that. In fact, it would have been terrible for farmers, so it's mysterious in that regard. But it is basically a linear count of days. It has days, months, years of 360 days, 20-year periods, and 400-year periods. That 400-year period is called a Baktun. And that is what brings us to 2012. When we look at Maya texts and their famous Popol Vuh, and I've studied every one of these texts, they say that the world reset at the end of the third creation, and we are now in the fourth creation. We are people of the fourth creation. And the third creation lasted 13 baktuns, or 13 400-year periods. And day one of this, our creation, the fourth creation, appears on our calendar as 3114 BCE, August 13th. So, here's where the math goes funny on our Western mind. We look at that calendar like it's the clock on the wall and say, well, okay, if the third creation ended in 13 400-year periods, the fourth creation should also end in 13 400-year baktuns. That would lead us to December 21st, 2012. If we do the math from 3114 BC, we get to 2012 for the completion of 13 baktuns. Therein lies our problem. Did the Maya actually say that the world was going to reset at the completion of 13 baktuns again? To our Western minds, looking at the clock on the wall, it has to. But no, their math system actually is base 20, which means that that position, the 400-year periods position, should go to 20 times before it resets, not 13. So if we do that math, it's not 2012, but rather 4772 AD that we should expect the Baktuns to complete. Whether that's the end of a creation, an era, that's also not specified by the Maya. Now, the first guy to bring up this 2012 thing was not a New Age person. It wasn't an alien conspiracy person. It was actually a very accomplished archaeologist. He worked for Yale for most of his life, and his name was Dr. Michael Coe. And in his textbook, The Maya, in the late 1960s, a new edition, he decided to add this sentence that said, if you do the math, if it ended in 13 baktuns that last time, it'll end in 13 baktuns this time, and that would be 2012. So we should all brace ourselves for the Maya end of the world. Now, I knew Mike. He passed away a few years ago. Nice guy, one of the great old gentlemen of archaeology. But at a dinner party one time, I asked him, "Why did you do that?" And he said, I don't know. I regret it. I was just trying to be funny. If I knew it was going to cause all these things, I would have never said that in my book." Nevertheless, he did, and it was taken by people like Jose Archaeologist, who created the harmonic convergence. It was taken by Aztec scholars and run through the Aztec calendar mill, where they came up with this idea that there'd be a final 52 years like their calendar, and that's what set the date for the harmonic convergence backing up from 2012. So a lot of misinformation, and people just took that ball and ran with it. Now let's get down to why I think that the Maya never said that. Number one, if there was a known end of the world coming, even if it was far away, we'd expect a number of texts to talk about 2012. But in point of fact, only 2 texts that we've ever found in the thousands of texts that they made actually say the date 2012. One of them was found relatively recently in the Baktun in Guatemala, but one we've known forever. It's from a site called Tortuguero in Tabasco, Mexico. And the text definitely talks about 2012, and it talks about the completion of 13 baktuns. But then right when the text gets to talking about what will happen, that little part of the monument was broken off and lost until it was found in New England in someone's garden. That happened I guess about 15, 20 years ago now. So we got that last piece of the text. For a while, we couldn't really read it because the glyphs were weird. But when we finally translated it, what's going to happen in 2012, it was not a cataclysm. Instead, it talked about 9 gods, the Bolon Tiku, who were going to put on costumes and have a party. Well, that doesn't really sound like a cataclysm, does it? So, to sum up, number one, we're making Western assumptions about how the Maya calendar and math system works. That if it reset once at a certain date, it would reset another. That's not true. In fact, the Aztecs that have a parallel system that talk about 5 creations, they're real specific that the creations were not all the same time length. So that goes out the window. The fact that 13 Baktuns ended the 3rd creation is not a foregone conclusion that it would be 13 again at the end of the 4th creation, which we currently live in. The other point is that the Maya hardly ever talked about this date. And when they did, now we know they were talking about celebrations, not the end of the world. So, regardless of what we people in the Western world think, the Maya did not name a time that the world would end. They were not incorrect. We were incorrect in what we thought they were saying. The Maya are a cyclical people. They don't do that sort of business. That's Western thinking. To point to a date in the future that something will happen, that's a unique, different, and world-ending thing. That's not how their minds work. They see history, yes, repeating itself, but in cycles. And they created those cycles to try to harmonize with the world and see things that were coming and prepare for them. Not an end of the world. Thanks for watching. If you liked that, here are 2 other videos that you might like as well. Please feel free to ask me questions down below in the comments, and I will answer all of those the best I can, and I'll pick a few for a monthly answer, a long form answer in a video. So, thanks.